And we are live. Oh my goodness. Hello to everyone.
Hello.
I'm going to go ahead and introduce everyone for tonight. And first, let's start with Brandi. Hi, Brandi. How are you?
Doing good.
And can't wait to hear about the Cecil Hotel.
I
That's
can't
going
wait
to
to
be
tell you.
really neat. Yeah, we kind of are familiar with that, so it'll be fun to talk it over. And hi, Cara. How are you?
Oh, I am fantastic.
Oh,
I'm doing,
that's good. Except for I know that there is a maybe possible tornado
yeah,
coming your way. So
yeah.
if you,
Tornadoes are normal.
yeah. So if it goes dark, I'll know. I'll know that you're, heading for the hills or wherever you go. uh, okay, so you guys, Andy Benson, my BFF. Hi, Andy. Thank you so much for coming
Oh
in.
yeah. No,
And,
the honor is all mine. The pleasure is
um,
all mine. So thank you, and it's great to see everyone and meet Brandy and Cara too, and Debbie, of course. You know.
Andy and I
Yep.
were writing partners and hosts and on our own show and everything for a long time, for years, long time friends. So
Yeah.
we both have paranormal lives. So you are going to talk about the famous Stanley Hotel tonight, which we all can't wait. That's always a favorite.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's pretty
I,
popular.
Oh, yes.
I did. I want to tell you, you have somebody saying hello.
Oh,
Melissa
Melissa,
loves
good to see you.
Andy.
Melissa, hi, Michelle.
And
Hi,
let's put Michelle up there. Our
hi,
friend
Michelle.
Michelle. Hi. And Kate, hello.
Hi,
Kate's
Kate.
probably having
Okay.
flashbacks. There we go. Oh my goodness. So a lot going on. One thing, let me share really fast. I know we have a lot to talk about tonight, but I do want to show something special. Let me go down and find it. Uh, there we go.
Oh,
Cara has a book out, just published, The Shadows of
Oh,
Satan. You can find it on Amazon and also in Kindle and hardcover. It just came out in hardcover. So, if you like a little bit of terror in the mountain story in supernatural, because we have to have some paranormal, go ahead and get Shadows of Satan, Terror in the Mountains on Amazon. Congratulations, Cara.
congratulations.
So
thank
You're
proud of you, Cara.
you.
So neat. So, okay. So the lineup tonight, everybody, is we are going to talk about Thelma Todd, and that'll be Cara. Then we're going to talk about the Stanley, and I get to talk about the Hollywoodland sign in
Oh,
LA, and then the Cecil. Brandy, I'll have the Cecil. So I think we should go ahead and start. And I'm going to bring a picture up for you. This is like was a picture that I found, and I was like, this is just fantastic. So let me bring it up. And Cara, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thelma Todd has always been one of my favorite actresses, actually, one of my first crushes. She was just this amazing, gorgeous blonde. And she actually had two nicknames, Hot Toddy, which I love, and the Ice Cream Blonde. She was born on July 29th, 1906. And she was not only a successful actress, guys, she was a businesswoman and successful at that, too. She actually did over 120 films and shorts. A lot of comedy. She actually did Horse Feathers and Monkey Business with the Marx Brothers, and she did several shorts with Laurel and Hardy. And then she was offered, and she did it, a chance to have her own little shorts where she would be the female version of Laurel and Hardy. Total slapstick comedy, a lot of physical comedy. Um, and then she wanted to to branch out, and she opened a sidewalk cafe in California in 1934 with a business partner who also was she was kind of a side piece for him. She ended up being his lover before him and his wife became estranged, and then the three of them kind of had an odd relationship, to say the least. His wife Jewel actually invested in some things with Thelma, and we'll go into that a little bit in a little bit. But she tended to find abusive men. Yeah, she West was controlling and on the abusive side, but her ex-husband Pat DiCicco was extremely abusive, and he actually was also married to Gloria Vanderbilt, and she divorced him for a lot of physical abuse. He was married to her after he was married to Thelma Todd. But through Pat DiCicco, she met Lucky Luciano. Everyone knows the famous monster. Yeah. And Lucky Luciano got her addicted to amphetamines. Probably to keep her weight down, because Hal Roach had a potato clause in her contract. If she gained more than 5 pounds, he could end her contract like that.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah. So, but Lucky Luciano got her addicted to that. After she opened her sidewalk cafe, he tried to intimidate her into letting him use the third floor as an illegal casino for the mob. And she refused, which put her in unfavorable position with him as well. But she did on the second floor. She had her apartment, and then Roland West had an adjoining apartment. And the only thing that separated them above the cafe was a sliding wooden door between the two apartments. But they also had a nightclub up there, a private nightclub. On the third floor, there was a dance floor and a bar, and she entertained many of the Hollywood elites at the time. And she, her death is very sad. And I wonder if more would have been done to investigate it back then. But on the evening of December 14th, she was attending a party, which is kind of wild, with Stanley Lupino, who was him and his daughter Ida. Everyone knows Ida Lupino. They were throwing a party at a famous nightclub, and she attended. And her chauffeur took her home, and usually the chauffeur would walk her up to her door. And that night, the chauffeur said two things when he was talking to the police. He said she did not seem intoxicated at all, and she asked him to just drop her off instead of walking her to the door. He said that was completely out of nature for her.
Weird.
Yeah, so it was a little weird. And plus, the night at that party, she ran into her ex, Pat DiCicco, and they had kind of a blow up, from what the partygoers said. But they all said she was in good spirits, and a lot of them said there's no way she would have committed suicide or anything like that. But a day and a half later or so, or about 24 hours, she was found dead in her car, which was in the garage of Jewel West, the estranged husband of estranged wife of Roland West. They actually lived, she lived in a house right above the cafe. So that's where her car was kept. She was found in a beautiful sequin formal gown that she had worn to the party, and a long mink coat, and she was slumped over the steering wheel, and her maid said it looked like she had fallen asleep. But there's some weird things that went on with her death. She did have a bloody lip, and some accounts, which were not recorded with the coroner, were that she had bruises on her neck and bruises around her ribs. Those were never recorded by the coroner. I do not know if they were taken out or not. But something that was interesting that came out 50 years later from Hal Roach when he was 90 years old and being interviewed, he was told that um, the police came to see him and they said that Roland West had confessed to killing her. It was covered up. He had literally had a fight with her at the apartment when she got there in the early morning hours of the 15th. And he injured her somehow. And she went up to her car. And when she went to start her car, he locked her, the garage door, locked her in there. And when he went back later, she was dead. So he left the door unlocked for someone else to find her. Of course, all of that was put away as no one, it wasn't in any reports, but Hal Roach was confident. And another strange thing is Thelma Todd's best friend had told her young son, who was also interviewed years later, the same exact story, almost word for word, of what Hal Roach had said. She was told by the police that Roland West had confessed to killing her accidentally. He didn't mean, he didn't mean to harm her or didn't think she would die. So it was kind of covered up, but you wonder if they covered that up. Did they cover the bruises on her neck? Did they cover the possible rib fractures? Any of those things that happened to her that night? But either way, her death was ruled an accident. The coroner's inquest, that jury said it was a possible accident, but they wanted the police to do further investigation into possible homicide. The grand jury, several weeks later, ruled it an accident. And then, for some reason, someone added to her file accident with suicidal tendencies. So it was very weird. But there was no suicide note. She wasn't upset or depressed or anything. She was the fight that she had with Roland that night consisted of him being mad that she stayed out as late as she did. He demanded she be home before 2. She didn't get home till after 4. And he was going to a party that Sunday night again. So he was furious. He didn't want her going out, especially without him. But her ghost is haunting those Santa Monica mountains. She has been seen. Her former cafe is still there. As a matter of fact, it looked exactly the way she left it when she died up until 2015. And
wow.
Yeah.
I wish I could have gone and seen it. I didn't know about this.
Yeah, it was someone bought it in 2015 and started doing renovations, but she has been seen on the stairway leading up to where her apartment was. She has been seen standing under the arches of the main entrance to the cafe. There was a production company who used some of the space. They were making a kind of a low budget movie, but it actually had Ralph Bellamy and Martin Sheen in it. But people were there on the night shift. I guess I don't know if they were doing editing or doing things for the film. They were part of the production staff, and they heard noises throughout the building and movement. But there were only 2 of them in the building, and the building was locked. But they heard footsteps. They heard noises. They heard things banging around. And so she's like stuck in that little limbo there between the cafe and the garage where she was found dead. And mind you, she was found dead, fully clothed, jacket on, and all of her expensive jewelry that she had worn to that party.
And they have the photos online because I was interested when I saw her photo, and I went, and they've got all the photos of her dead and then being taken out of the car and everything. And I was like,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just really feel like he was guilty as heck.
Yeah. Well, Roland West had, but he had the money to get off. He was a famous producer and businessman, and back then that's what happened.
Yeah, and then also probably working with the mob a little bit. And I swear, as soon as you said production, I keep thinking of this gorgeous woman here that had a lot of power during that time. and then you think of the boyfriend being the jealous guy, and he's going to control her and tell her,
Yeah.
and she ain't having it.
Yeah.
Um, but sad. It's sad.
It is very sad. I mean, you think of what life she could have had. She was on the rise. Her star was shining. But that is
Wow.
the sad story of Thelma Todd.
That was
I do.
great, though.
It
Yeah.
was. I do feel like that when you get, mobsters and stuff like that involved back then, and probably even, more currently, um, they had the power because people would be scared, or they get paid off, or they're threatened. So
Yeah.
yeah, okay, well, he didn't do it. Let him go. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
like you were saying with renting that part of the bar or her room or
Yeah.
something, and he's
Yeah.
like, "You told me no. You don't tell a
Oh,
gangster no."
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
There were literally four suspects. So
Wow.
Wow. Well, thank you, Cara. That was great. I
Yeah,
didn't
that
know
was really
any of
good.
that. And look at you, spurred me
Yeah.
to go on and research and get a little bit more. It's so interesting. I want to say hi to Sheila. So let's go into my territory, and I'm going to bring this up. And you're not going to see it very well because I didn't enlarge it. But there's a woman right there walking over to look up at the Hollywood sign. That
Oh
would be
yeah.
that was me.
ah,
Used to be very adventurous. I went to look at it, and then we drove up to it. And Madonna was looking right there. So we got to look in her backyard. We're
Ah.
up looking down. There was Madonna's, hi, Madonna. And then, then we did go over and look at the sign from the top of the hill. So, but it wasn't always the Hollywood sign. So let me show you this. I decided to get this old picture of
hmm
Hollywoodland. And so they did start out with having land on there. When it went in disrepair, they did ended up just taking the land off, and it would just have the Hollywood sign there. But I do want to show you who we are talking about and who ended up to this day being a ghost. So here she is.
gorgeous.
I want to introduce Peg and Twistle. And she actually was an actress, and she was born in Wales. And she came to the U.S. and lived in New York in 1916 with her father until he passed away. But she was in 10 Broadway plays, which is amazing. And she was in a lot of other theater, and she had really good accolades. She was really good. But we have to look at the time that she was living in LA with her uncle. She went up for a part and lost the role to Katharine Hepburn.
Oh,
And so that was a
Mm.
big, really hard thing for her to go through, because even though she went on to star in something, her contract wasn't renewed, and that was really sad. So she got very, very depressed. So what happened is that she ended up jumping from the letter H in Hollywood, and she was killed. And she did have some belongings that were found by a hiker, and there was a suicide note in it. In the suicide note, I'm going to read it. I am afraid. I am a coward. I am sorry for everything. If I had done this a long one ago, it would have saved a lot of pain. P.E. And so in September 18th, 1932, she went up to the H and she leapt. She died of multiple fractures to her pelvis. So she had a lot of mental anguish going on, along with her career. Her ex husband got a new wife, and this was just a little bit too much for her. So she let
Mm.
herself perish. Now, she was beautiful, wasn't she?
Oh,
Gorgeous.
gorgeous.
So
Those
pretty.
eyes.
Yeah, I was gonna say those eyes, they really stand out.
Yeah, beautiful. But what happened is then the ghost story started and the spotting of her. So I have some of the cases where they were, people reported it. So in the 1940s, the first time that people started seeing Peg, um, she was seen walking in 1930s clothing, very, very disoriented and looking extremely sad. So whenever they would rush to go to her or anything, she would fade away. She would just disappear. So those were multiple sightings of her as a
Oh.
ghost. Now, one time a jogger um, just was jogging on a trail there and had a really overcome with a weird feeling and started getting the chills, shivers and chills. And then she saw an apparition, and it was of a young woman walking in vintage clothing, and then she disappeared. So I mean, it goes on and on. There was a couple walking a dog, and the dog cried out. So you know how animals know that something's
Mhm.
going on. And what happened, it actually went and hid. It was so scared. And a young woman, and they called it out of date clothing, materialized in front of them. So it wasn't like they saw her going somewhere. She materialized right in front of them in the path, and she looked like she was lost. And she faded away, right in front of them. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, that would
So,
have creeped me out.
but
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that'd been a little spooky.
oh, I would have loved it. So let's keep going though. So that's a park. And so there's a lot of park rangers, and they have seen and witnessed her for many, many years. And but what happens when they see her is they get the smell of gardenias, which was her favorite scent. Her fragrance was gardenias. And she's usually seen by the park rangers late at night. And now, unlike people saying that she appeared and she was walking or anything, they see her glide. She does not take steps, she glides. And um, so the deal is, I want to tell you this. I have a girlfriend that is, when she was born with a veil. Some of you know what that means. And so she always had second sight. She told me many, many years ago that she would be at her grandma's on the front veranda, and there would be these people just sliding in with smoke at their feet and sliding down the road. And sometimes they would turn and come over to the veranda and look at her. And she said, I could only hear their mumble, I couldn't hear their words. And the grandmother took care of it. She like put a Bible verse and wrote something, put it in the Bible, and put it under her pillow, and that never happened again. But I thought, oh yes, I get it. They, gliding. They didn't have to take those steps.
Right.
So let me tell you this one about these kids. I love it when they scare some teenagers, right? So after an LA Dodgers game, four friends drove over to the area, and they hopped the fence because they were going to go up and touch the Hollywood sign, right? Well, they slipped down because it's a steep, hill. They slipped down and slid down the hill to the trail. And then all of a sudden, a woman in 1930s dress glided up the hill. This is gliding up the hill without any sounds. They heard nothing, and she was wearing heels, and she had a veil over her face. And so, I mean, they were so scared. But let me tell you, they went on Paranormal Witness on the Sci-Fi Channel as witnesses and told that story.
Wow.
So that's what I have. I mean, all the time, Peg is seen gliding around that hill. And unfortunately, she's always sad and all of that. and I'd like somebody to do a soul rescue for her. But you know what? She's a main staple that people go and look for now. So it's a sad story, but she definitely is a ghost that's been there for decades.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So that was my story.
that was really good.
Isn't
Yeah.
it?
I
She
love the history of the Hollywoodland sign.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so much. There's so much. And it really is, kind of awesome. We can see it, up on the hill. And if you
Yeah.
why we go down that street and you go down, when you turn around, Hollywood is right there, and all you have to do is put your hands like this, and you're holding the sign,
Right.
so we can take a picture of you. And then we went up, and then it's very awesome to actually see it in person. Is really cool.
I drove
So,
by it once, but we
oh,
didn't
there you
actually
go.
get to see it. But
That's
yeah.
like the Winchester House. I drove by it.
Right. I drove by it. That's as close as I got. So.
It's my bucket list to go see it.
Michelle says it was the first thing I went to see when I first moved there. Awesome.
Yeah.
And hi, Marie. Marie, we're talking about ghost stories today. Thank you for being here. The next one is Andy. So, Andy, let me find your awesome. You gave me an awesome picture, but I already had one lined up.
No,
so
that's
hopefully
fine.
it's okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's like the same thing.
So you can tell everybody about kind of, maybe some people don't know what this is.
Right. So I did a little bit of research today. Don't mind the glasses here. But this is the Stanley Hotel, which is located in northwestern end of Estes Park in Colorado. So this hotel, short story right here, Stephen King was inspired when he stayed in one of these rooms. And I do have that listed here. But this is in Colorado. It's actually really close to the plains, and then on the other side is the Rocky Mountains.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
and it is an unusual name if you think about it. Estes, it seems kind of maybe Native American or Spanish, Mexican, but it means valley. So it would technically mean Valley Park. And it spans 30 square miles. So that's just the land portion. Now, way back when, the American Indians, notably the Ute and the Arapaho Native Americans, used this for many centuries for hunting and gaming, and then later on, up until I believe the 1800s, they would collect like lodgepole pine.
So there was actually Native Americans doing their thing
Right.
on that property, which, okay.
And I've personally been here. It would have been a couple, well, close, I guess 5 years ago. I had an opportunity to do a ghost walkthrough or
Ooh.
a tour through this, but it didn't pan out at the time. However, there is paranormal events all through the year. The current owner does this now, but he doesn't believe in ghosts. So they believe in coincidences. A lot of the resources I looked up, and technically, the ghost portion started after Stephen King showed up there after he wrote his novel, The Shining. So,
Maybe he released the ghosts.
right. What
If
I
anything,
found,
if anybody's going to attract a ghost, it's going to be Stephen King, or maybe
oh
a
my
demon.
God. Oh my God, yes. And also the land, the area where it's at is very spiritual. So it's this was the main reason why a lot of people from the East would move over. Technically, like the British aristocrats, and then some of the foreigners would come over to this area, as they moved towards the West, and they they saw the beauty and the economic impact that they could have made in the area. So there was a hotel already there, but then eventually that man had sold it out to the Stanley family, which is why it's named after them. He originally wanted to name it, I believe, the Dunraven Motel, or excuse me, Hotel.
I like that.
And that's because it was the Earl of Dunraven from Ireland who acquired this to begin with, but he had to go through a loophole in order to get it, because you had, during the 1860s, I believe they had the Posted Act where you could go claim land as your own. Well, he couldn't, but he got a hold of some rich aristocrats and then had them buy it up because they're American, and then sell it off to him. And he got about 6 acres, 6,000 acres worth of the best property up there. So I found that just amazing. And this guy just really was inventor. His name was Wyndham Thomas Wyndham Quinn, the fourth Earl of Dunraven. So,
He was fancy schmancy.
yes, he was. So now, when you think of the name the Stanley, you're like, what does that mean? You know, they're the family that invented the Stanley steamer, but they didn't invent the steamer as in what you would think a vacuum cleaner, a steamer. That they invented the automobile, which was named the Stanley steamer because it was steam powered.
I thought it
Oh.
was a carpet cleaner.
Right? Right? Yeah, that little jingle just plays in your head. The Stanley Stanley steamer. But I thought it was just amazing and funny because they did call it the Flying Teapot. The locals did. So,
Oh my. I love
um,
that.
but they were the main reason why the automobiles did end up in this area during that time around the Colorado, Wyoming area. They did end up doing that, but they were a stubborn family. They did not follow through with their technology on the automobile, and it just kind of, they focused more on the hotel. So, what a great idea, huh? Um,
That hotel is stunning. It's just beautiful.
it
I want to
it
go. I want to
is.
go.
Um, So on the ghost portion of this, I wanted to mention just, well, first of all, there was a few, well, I'm going to say there's many famous notable people. One of them being the Emperor of Japan. And then we had President Roosevelt stayed there as well. And of course, Stephen King. Um, Over time, though, the hotel kind of got a little decrepit, and there was a fire in there in the transition between Stanley buying it from um, the Estes family, or the Earl, the Duke, I guess is who it was, and they had a maid that walked in. Let's see, it's near Stephen King's 217, the room that he stayed in, 217, I believe. And back in 1911, she went to go light the gas lanterns. And of course, back in those days, you couldn't smell gasoline, or I would think it was kerosene, but it was like they They said it was gasoline, so you couldn't smell it and you couldn't see it. So blindly, 10% of the whole hotel blew up, and she survived.
Oh,
And
wow.
continued
Wow.
working there after that. I was like, a tenth of the hotel had blown up. So that's when he had sold it. And then what happened was Stanley built 11 different buildings, and I'm sure he added on to that. And what else did we get
He have
there?
to repair that. Nobody died in that fire?
No, not
Oh,
one death.
Wow.
Yep, yep.
Wow.
So
lucky.
um let's see. People tend to go here for the spiritual aspect of it. Um, even the ghosts on the other side tend to come back. The reason why people now, I kind of see it this way as well, is Stephen King's book did bring in a lot of notoriety to the hotel, which was perfect, so it brought in tourism and all of this. And
Right.
a lot of the ghost stories came with it as well. There are some, I guess I did get a little bit of, people sharing their personal experiences, but not a lot of consistency. So I would think that the land itself was probably very highly energetic. They had mentioned
Right.
that. The floors are made out of quartz. There's crystals in there, and it's in a perfect
Wow.
part of the northern hemisphere as well. So, like, things get charged up. Even that area is very well known for missing people in
Oh,
Estes Park. There's a ton of missing people that go missing there. Um, the most haunted area is the Long Hall that you see. So if you watch The Shining, or for those that have seen it, the Hollywood movie, um, there's children at the end that say "red rum, red rum." So they
Murder,
said,
murder.
yeah, murder backwards. Other people claim that they've seen things, but they just can't explain it. But they don't believe in ghosts. Typically, it's just like, one example was the tour guide, and her name's Mary. And so she was at the top of the staircase, and so she's talking to everybody, and the owner was there, the current owner, who doesn't believe in ghosts. Um, he he must have witnessed this. I think I caught that right. And she looked over during her tour, and she sees this little boy. I believe it was a little boy or a little girl. I think it was a little boy. And this little boy goes, "That's scary, Mary." And it freaked her out. And she's still working there.
Oh, gee.
And I think the owner must have seen it. But of course, they always say your mind's playing tricks on you.
yeah.
So, and then I guess I'm trying to think. I mean, people will experience residual, like smoke, um, like cigar smoke. Well, there's no smoking in that. So,
Right.
I mean, and then even with the fire too, so that could be part of it. Um, and then just seeing spirits, like residual energy where people have always gathered, like in the main areas. One of them is the ball. I believe it's the ballroom. There's the
Oh,
ballroom, and then there's Mrs. It was a previous owner. Original owner. She did the pianos. She was a pianist, and she played, um, very much liked the finer things in life. So they'd host parties and stuff, but you can often hear her playing. Um,
Wow.
and then people tugging on your shirts too, I guess. So
kind of that Little energy.
Right. So I found that pretty interesting. I know I've left out quite a bit. There was a lot of history, but they have on-site psychics that will do readings and stuff there. So they're very open to the paranormal, and they often host like horror film festivals and
Yeah, we need
events.
a convention. Psychic
Right.
Fixes convention.
That'd be awesome.
Right.
We
yeah.
will. We will. We will do absolutely. Everybody will want to come to San Diego to they hang out at the beach, but
Oh yes.
that'd be fun. We'll find a fun place. You know, there's so many haunted places, and this is so famous. And to me, it's just gorgeous. I just love it. I would love to do an investigation there. So,
If I could pick a place on our list of tonight's, my favorite one is the Cecil Hotel. It is
oh my
so
gosh.
creepy.
I'm waiting for that because that one is creepy.
Yeah.
I'm waiting
There's
for that
one-
too. I'm curious
One
about.
big part. I won't say, but if Brandi doesn't say it, I'm going to talk about this one big thing that
Oh
is
boy.
always creeped me out.
Just
Yeah.
put the pressure on me here.
Here we go, Brandi.
And this, and this, and this.
Oh my goodness.
my God.
Well, yeah, because we could have had a lot of different photographs, you know, of things that were pictures taken, and it's got some it is really creepy. And, you know, I have not been there. All my friends have been there.
Oh,
And I want to go to the LA has an awesome memorial park kind of hidden away. And I just want to go to all that stuff. So as soon as, you know, everybody's out and about. Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see what it looks like. I got the old view of it there.
Oh, that is definitely the old view of that. So before I get up to the most recent thing that's happened with the Cecil Hotel, let's start back with where it opened at. It opened in 1924 in Los Angeles, right before the Great Depression hit, and the people that built it had in mind for it to be a very opulent, high-priced, fancy motel. It was a beautiful motel on the inside, but then the Great Depression hit, and it became more synonymous with being on Skid Row, and that it was one of those seedy little hotels that you could rent rooms for cheap by the day, the week. So more known for its lower class of clientele. So, but the first suicide happened in 1931, and that was a W.K. Norton, and his body, or her body, it doesn't say he or her, just W.K. Norton, was found beside a pile of poison capsules. So that was your first suicide. And I'm only doing the more notorious, well-known suicides. There's been several others besides this. But in 1937, a 25-year-old woman named Grace E Mcgraw was the fourth person to die at the hotel when she fell from the 9th story. Her body was tangled in the telephone wires, and the police never determined if this was suicide, accidental, or, homicide. They never determined which it was.
Oh.
And then in 1944, another heartbreaking incident was that a young woman gave birth in her hotel room and threw the newborn out the window in a panic.
Oh my God.
So that was her way of dealing with the, I guess you could say, unwanted pregnancy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lord.
I'm going through this a little bit quick because we're coming down to like a few minutes and there's a lot to cover here, guys.
Okay.
You're fine.
In 1962, October of that year, Pauline Otten, at the age of 27, killed herself jumping from the building after she got in an argument. Now, the downside to this is that she didn't just take herself out. When she landed from the 9th story, she landed on a 68-year-old transient man named George Gianni. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. And killed him too.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just really unfortunate that she decided to, take her life. But the fact that she also took this other person out at the same time, who was just standing there completely unaware of what was going on.
Oh my God.
And it did take them a while to figure that little crime scene out, didn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure it did because I don't know because it doesn't say if there was any witnesses to it, but that would have been if you did not have any witnesses and you walked in on it, it'd be like, what the heck happened here? Did they jump out the window together? I mean, did they throw each other
Yeah.
out? No, she
Yeah.
landed on it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So yeah, and then there was a murder of a lady that lived there. I mean, she resided there. She kind of just became a transient that stayed in that hotel always, and she was called Pigeon Goldie Osgood. And she was called that because she was one of those pigeon feeders. She'd go out to the parks and she'd feed the pigeons and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
And in
Yeah.
1964, she was found in her room, having been shot, stabbed, and sexually assaulted. Now,
How old was she?
Huh?
How old was she?
It does not really say, just that she was one of the older. She was an elderly woman who fed
my
pigeons. It
God.
never gave an age for her that I could find.
Oh my
But-
God, that's awful.
The sad thing is that case has never been solved. So it's still an unsolved case from 1964.
Oh, maybe they have some old DNA. Somebody's got to get on that.
And now we come into the couple of cases that are a little bit more well known just because they're serial killers. So you have Richard Ramirez, who was also known as the Night Stalker. So back in 1984 to August of 1985, he killed no fewer than 38 people between the ages of 9 to 83. Now, he didn't kill them in the hotel. The hotel is where he would go back to after doing so. And he'd throw his bloody clothes in the dumpster outside the hotel and walk in completely nude to go to his room.
Yeah, that's how seedy this place was, huh?
Yeah, and nobody looked twice at it. It was
Yeah.
like, okay, this is normal behavior, whatever.
Jeez.
So, and of course, he's pretty famous just because he was the Night Stalker. So there's a lot of information if you guys want to dig into it. Another serial killer who is also active while staying at the Cecil was Jack Unterweger, and I'm probably pronouncing that one wrong. But he was from Austria, and he'd already been convicted of a murder in Austria and became a famous published writer saying that, he had conformed and he was a God-fearing man now and got released. All of his fans chipped in and he finally got released. And he came to Los Angeles to do stories with the police. So he wanted to cover stories with them and he'd do ride-alongs and that kind of stuff. And what's sad about it is that half the crimes that they was covering that he was writing along with them, he was the actual murderer. They was the sex workers that he had killed while staying at the Cecil.
Wow.
So they finally connected it together and he was rearrested for it and sent back to prison for it. And he killed himself not long after that. But he had already been convicted of murder, and all these new cases that he had done in Australia, then he came to Los Angeles, they all matched.
Right.
It was easily to say this is his MO and this is him doing it.
And
But he was riding along with the cops when he was discovering the bodies that he had killed.
Oh my God.
He had a fascination for Richard Ramirez, didn't he?
I do believe so. I think that is why he came to the Cecil Hotel in the first place.
Did kind of like those copycat serial killer.
Yeah, there were a lot of them that were born from Ramirez.
Yeah. And he has 3 confirmed kills with sex workers. Possibly more, but 3 for sure was under his little spree of killing and trying to imitate Ramirez. So, with all that happening, it's not any big surprise that in 2011, the owners of the hotel tried to step away from their notorious history and separate themselves. And they rebranded, changing their name to Stay on Main. So there's no longer the Cecil Hotel. It is now called Stay on Main. But after all of that, and this is where the paranormal kind of stuff comes into it. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people are familiar with this. In February 2013, a young lady named Elisa Lamb was found in their water tank. No explanation of how she got there. Nobody can figure out how she got there. But the last video they have of Elisa Lamb before she went missing was in an elevator in the Cecil Hotel. And she was acting extremely strange. She was waving her hands around in the air like she was trying to wave at somebody or something. She kept darting her head out of the elevator door to look down the hall. And it looked like she was talking to somebody, but there's nobody else ever in the video with her. So a lot of people think it was paranormal. And it could very well be, or could have been somebody that just didn't show up on the camera. We don't know. She might have lost her mind. The only thing they do say about her is that she was bipolar, but when they did the autopsy, there was no medications that she wasn't supposed to have in her, or that was more than what she should have had in her.
Oh.
So they ruled that out as her possible death. But what nobody understands is how she got up onto the roof of this building and into the water tanks, because you had to have a key card to unlock those doors to get up. And then to get into the water tank, it is a tiny little hole that you have to crawl up on the tank, lift this heavy lid up, and then get in. And then how did she close the lid back over on her? Nobody knows. And she did it naked. She left her clothes off. The clothes were sitting next to the water tank. Now, what's even scarier about this is that she was in that tank for at least a week.
It was 19
Closing,
days.
and
19
the water
days.
was on. So people was reporting foul-smelling water, discolored water, funny tasting water, and it was because she was in that water tank decomposing.
Yep.
So, and that is the most known case about what's happened with Cecil. But it's like I said, most people think it's paranormal related just because of the last video of her acting so strangely in that elevator with no reasoning behind acting that way.
And you can go online and see that the pictures.
Yeah.
And
It is
everything.
online. You can see it.
She's
been
in
covered
the
by
elevator.
a lot of YouTubers. But she is acting very strange. And there's been a lot of speculations where people have tried to explain it off. One of them was that she was not wearing her glasses and she wore glasses. And they think that she's pressing all the numbers on the elevator pad thing because she couldn't see the numbers, but she knew that she was on one of the rooms in the center line of numbers. So she just pushed them all. But the door would never close. Now, if you're familiar with elevator doors, a lot of them have that hold doors button in the center middle on the bottom.
Yes.
The center row all on the bottom, there's that hold doors open. And she could have accidentally had hit that and kept the doors open. Or was it something paranormal? We don't know. You don't know. And the video that was released, you can tell that it's been not edited per se, but parts of it have been cut out of it. So it's not the full video that was released.
Right.
So we don't know what was happening that was not in the video that was released.
That is so crazy. And
You wanted me to, Debbie.
Yeah, it was the water tower. When she went missing, they hadn't seen her for 19 days. And everybody was drinking the water out of the tap and taking showers and everything.
Oh my God.
Oh my
There
God.
is more to this story. Back before this even happened, there was a movie called Black Water that was based on the same premises, except that it was an apartment complex, not a hotel, and it had the same body decomposing in a water tank.
Oh, yeah.
So, you got that too. And I'd have to agree with Sheila, who commented, somebody had to have been with her to close that lid. There's no way she fell into it and did not close could have closed the lid above her.
And it was metal and heavy.
And I don't think the water line.
Tank, you're floating in water. She had nothing to stand on to reach up and force that back over on herself.
And who knows what the difference, the clearance between the heavy lid actually flip it
I do
and
believe
her.
they listed it as being more than what she could have reached.
Right.
Because in fact, she could not touch the bottom in that water.
No.
So
to me, it's either it was definitely a murder, that maybe someone gave her some kind of psychedelic drug or something in hoping to rape her or something, or it was paranormal. Something drove her up there and something closed that lid.
Yeah.
There's only two things. I mean, there's no way she could have done this to herself.
A couple of other details that I have found that not a lot of people mention is that when she first came into the Cecil Hotel, she shared a room with people she didn't even know. It was like a group dorm room kind of. And she complained constantly until they moved her into a room by herself.
Wow.
So there's that's not mentioned a lot. There's also, she had sent a message home to her family or posted it in her blog, because she blogged a lot, about how she had held a strange man that had creeped her out and was either following her or had approached her. We're not sure which. the Cecil Hotel wasn't even the original hotel she wanted to stay in. The one she wanted to stay in was full, and some couple on the side of the road pointed her to the direction of the Cecil.
Oh,
Oh,
So
gee.
she was traveling from Canada. I don't think I mentioned that. She
Yeah.
was a Canadian traveling in America. And her family finally got worried because she hadn't contacted, and she was the type that she blogged daily about her trips, and she contacted home daily while she was gone, and all of a sudden it all stopped. And I don't think they ever found her cell phone even. So
I'm just one to believe that it's either paranormal or it's murder.
yeah, it's got to be one or the other. There's no way she could have done it herself, but it is listed as a accidental death.
Oh my gosh.
I know, right?
I think it was murder.
Yeah.
We should pull cards on this. I want.
This would be something interesting to pull a card on just to see. You know,
Right.
if you found something.
Did
know?
she, are they seeing her ghost?
I have not seen any mentions of seeing her ghost. I haven't actually found any mentions of seeing any ghost forms per se. It's more just your typical run of the mill, the tugging her shirts, the cold spots, the noises, but nothing physically seen.
Until this.
Yeah.
Yeah, until this. Because like I said, by the video, if you watch her, it honestly looks like she's interacting with something that is not seen in the video.
Yeah.
Wow. What is the status of the hotel now?
It is now called Stay on Main, and they've stepped away from the daily and weekly rates, so they're more trying to be the typical hotel.
Okay.
Which is kind of sad because they aren't that far from Skid Row, I don't think.
Yeah, they're not that far from Skid Row.
Which is why it's like on the corner of Skid Row, I think.
Yeah.
Ugh.
We have several.
Gross.
But on American Horror Story, the hotel, I think they were inspired by by the events from
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
And there's other stories like the Black Dahlia was rumored to have been last seen in that bar, but they've kind of ruled against that now. They've got more information that leads away from that. So
they know who did it now. There's
yeah.
no way to convict them, but they know who did it.
Yeah, but for the longest time, it was rumored that the last time she was seen alive was in the bar at the Cecil Hotel. But that was just a rumor. It was never confirmed. It was never. Her name just became synonymous with the Hotel Cecil.
Yeah.
Which, it's a good little ghost story, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But it's not what really happened.
Wow, this is crazy. What great stories we have tonight. We're almost out of time. We got like 2 minutes. Sheila says, pull some cards. But Sheila, I just had the vaccine, so I'm not doing any readings right now. I'm not touching my cards. And I get a little spacey.
I think they're all wanting. I think she's referencing when we said to pull some cards about this. So at some point,
she is about to see if it was a murder or not.
Yeah,
I'm just going to go with my psychic sense. It was a murder.
Yeah, I want to know what happened to John Bonet too. I'm right there with Sheila on that one.
Oh, I know it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, isn't that so? And it should have been Jean Benet Ramsey. It should have been solved. I go, were they kidnapped? What the heck?
I would love to cover that case because I've done so much research into that case that it'd be fun. But it's not a paranormal one. It's
yeah.
Cambo and I did. We were pausing a documentary on John Bonet, and he could read people by pausing the video, and just look at their eyes, and then he can ask them questions, and they'll nod their head yes or no. Did you murder your daughter? Did you, and do it that way intuitively. And it was interesting. And then I pulled cards, and we had about the same thing on that case.
Yeah, it's just like one of the saddest cases. But you get those, Charles Lindbergh, the Lindbergh baby, huge case there.
You know,
And
people realize the Lindbergh baby actually had a congenital medical condition. So there's been a lot of speculation that Lindbergh and his wife, or Lindbergh himself, may have done something to the child, and then the whole fiasco of the kidnapping was staged. Because back then, if you had a child born with a medical condition or that would or a deformity or something that would cause people to look down on you, you didn't want those children around you. So there's a lot of speculation.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that happened. I actually have a best friend whose grandfather was friends with him. They actually have all of his blueprints from the planes and everything. And they were very, very good friends. And I think that it was very tragic for the family. But, there's going to be, aren't we good? Aren't everybody good at conspiracy theories nowadays? But it'll always be that unknown because it's so far, so much time.
I do have Charles Lindbergh in my ancestry, my grandpa. Yeah. So, but I didn't ask questions, and I didn't. I know it's bad, so I'm like related somewhere there.
Yeah, there was another thing too that they said that the baby may have died in the hands of the kidnappers because of a medical condition that the baby had too. That was another thing,
probably,
and that the kidnappers did not know. That this child had to have a medication or have something, which we've seen that happen with kidnappings before too. Even current kidnappings, we've seen it happen.
Right. Well, there's been some spooky places and a lot of tragedy. I can't get over how many people jumped off that hotel, the Cecil Hotel, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, and that was just the major ones. That wasn't all of them. There was tons more that just, they didn't list names or that many details, just listed them as suicide, so I didn't really cover them.
Well, we have a favorite place here. It's called Suicide Bridge, and it crosses over a highway to the Balboa Park. And they had to put great big, iron curl barbed things because people were just, I think I'm going to let off myself, and they go there and they jump down on, and then the traffic. People go through there, and we've had a lot of horrible things. We unfortunately, in a history, you probably heard of a horrific plane crash over the city of San Diego, and the bodies all rained down. And this one lady was never the same because it hit her windshield. One of the people hit a body part or whatever,
my God,
and broke her windshield, and that was it for her sanity. So it's just like, to have that one bridge, and I don't even know what the bridge is named. When I grew up, it's Suicide Bridge. Just
wow.
I think we all have those places, though.
Wasn't that there the 13 that theater building?
Oh, the 10th Avenue.
Yes, and where people are compelled to jump off the top.
Well, I encountered a teenage boy that was in distress. He was a spirit, and I was up there on the 4th floor, on the roof, and he was just sobbing and everything, and he went over. And then I got this other medium. We were up there, and I said, "Do you get what's going on?" And he said, "Yeah, there's this young boy, and he is going to go over, but there's something dark pulling him." And I'm like, "Here we go." Yep. But, because the dark energy's there, they're going to help it along. "Oh, okay, come on. You want to jump?" Yeah. Not a good thing.
And with the Hotel Cecil, that just reminds me of all that just sadness. And then with the crash of 29 and all of that, and then people later on, being seedy. It's, oh my God, Richard Ramirez. He is so gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love our
Yeah.
panel tonight, though. I love this group of four.
It worked out really good. Wasn't this fun?
Yeah.
And it is time for us to say goodbye, but let's see what's up with everything. Andy, what are you up to these days?
Well, I'm kind of taking it a little easy. Other than that, just coming up with some ideas of what I want to write and blog about. That's about it.
Oh gosh. Andy has lots of paranormal experience. He's also a tarot reader. And are you doing readings now? Can they get a hold of you?
Oh yeah, definitely. I do tarot readings, and I often go on with Cambo, or it can be by myself. Um, I'm an admin of the Dead Talk, so on Facebook. So feel free
Yay.
to see me there. Also on oraclelucidus.com.
Awesome.
So you guys can get a wonderful. I hear he had a great tarot teacher, one that doesn't teach tarot much, but to special people, and he's really good. That would be me.
That's right.
Oh, Andy, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
on. It was a joy to see you for sure.
We'd love to have you back too anytime.
Yeah.
You guys were awesome.
We love talking ghosts. We do. Well, we have personal experiences together. We hosted, Andy and I were part of the hosting of the 10th Avenue Theater, where we locked people in until, what was it, 1 a.m., 1:30 a.m.?
Yeah.
And so while we did paranormal investigations and seances throughout the 4 stories of that 1910 Art Deco building that's very haunted. So we have lots of stories we could tell. Okay, Brandi, thank you so much for coming in and guest hosting.
Not a problem. Anytime
You
need
did great. I loved your story.
You
I loved
did.
it.
Me
Loved it. It
too.
was so cool. And Cara, thank you, the wonderful Cara Carter, Gubrud, and congratulations again on your book. Everybody go and buy
Thank
it
you.
on Amazon. We're putting the posts where you can get it all over the place. So, but it's on Amazon, and we're going to get going. You guys stay here so we can say our goodbyes. But right now, we're going to say goodbye to our audience, and you're everything. So thank you so much for coming and listening to our stories. And we'll be here next Saturday, 6 p.m. Pacific. And you guys, I'll do the math on the time where you live. Okay, you guys. Bye-bye. Take care,
Bye.
everybody. Stay safe.